People often ask me what I did to make Pianoteq sound good, to make the Pianoteq preset that I'm playing on sound so good. And so far we're all happy. I take the compliment. But when I tell them that I only made some very superficial tweaks and that it's basically one of the default presets in the Pianoteq program, their response is either a stony silence or sometimes even protests of disbelief. I can get accused of lying. You see, I'm actually telling the truth. I don't change the presets very much at all. I've tried it, but I just mess it up, and then they sound terrible. So I leave all that to the brilliant Pianoteq guys. My skills and experience come from playing acoustic grand pianos, which are a joy to play, as long as they're new or well maintained. Personally, I don't tune pianos. I don't have those skills. I can't voice the hammers or regulate the action. I leave all that to the technicians who have the necessary skills. I just play the piano. Now, I love playing an excellent acoustic grand piano because the grand piano speaks, it sings, it responds to my expressive intentions. But I've always disliked sample digital pianos because they feel unresponsive to my touch, a bit like a corpse. Often a very beautiful corpse, maybe even animated like a very convincing android, but the fine control and subtle nuance of my technique is just lost on them. The basic sound is very impressive, but my touch doesn't affect it much at all. I can't make it gleam or smoulder or become luminous or dark or whatever. It just remains impressive, but cold. So my first physically modelled piano was the Roland V piano, and it did respond to my touch. It felt alive and breathing, and it had a lovely action to play as well. So this was the first time I'd played a digital piano that didn't have that Frankenstein quality I hated. And then I found Pianoteq, which has developed into something truly miraculous. It responds to my touch just like fine acoustic pianos do. So what is touch exactly? Well, it's a combination of things. There's velocity, which controls louds and softs, as well as timbre or tone colour. Then there's articulation, which is a smooth legato or a short staccato, and everything in between. So there's also fine control of timing, and this really does affect our perception of sonority. Listen to these expressive delays. Can you hear how the chords sound kind of warmer and fuller? Listen to how much harder the sound is without those expressive delays. Da, 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 ti, da, da. So I'll take those out and be more sort of in time. Totally different sound, isn't it? And then of course all this is mixed together with the sustain pedal, which you can use very skillfully, kind of half damping and so on. And this really affects the sound deeply. So you put it all together, and it all happens through time, sort of melodically, but also everything's balanced harmonically as well. One note is never really a good sound because it hasn't got that kind of balance and that dynamics. So mix it all together. So let's think about what's going on there. My technique, my musicianship, that's my ability to understand rhythmic and tonal patterns that make sense, and of course my musical imagination, all work together to make my muscles coordinate all the movements involved in my arms and fingers to vary velocity, articulation, timing and the pedalling, so that I'm interacting ergonomically with a nice action to intend certain sonorities that I mean to play moment by moment. So it's like telling a story, and by varying the tone of your voice, you can make the story come alive. A great voice is not just the voice, it's the way the actor or singer, when they're singing, affects dynamic control over the voice naturally and intentionally as the story or the rhythm and tonality of the music unfolds meaningfully. So it should go without saying, really, that we have to practice this kind of expressiveness into our technique, into our physical movements. That's why it's good to have a piano with a good action and to match the velocity with, the sound software that you're using. You've got to interact seamlessly, physically with the instrument as if it's part of you, as if it's actually a part of your body. So clinical technique work, working on your technique in a sort of clinical, abstract kind of way just doesn't help at all. It's all about letting go of physical and mental tension, losing any expressive inhibition, and sort of becoming at one with the piano. To get a great sound, you've got to intend every sonority. You choose expressively and authentically each moment. Decoding music coldly, adding expression as indicated or even afterwards, it is a bit like painting by numbers, and kind of passive karaoke playing, which is also very common. Well, that's kind of like making a poor copy, isn't it? Sonority comes from authentic communication using the language of music. So being a fluent musician, I think, really helps me to make very, very meaningful sonorities, really good sounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, I'm going to improvise, do some little improvisations on some of the default presets in Pianoteq, and I'm going to make no changes at all, absolutely none. All I'm going to do is I'm going to move the mics to the player position, so I've got the piano in front of me. I need that experience. If the piano sounds to me like I'm in the audience when I'm sitting here, that's disturbing and I can't control the sonority properly. So I'll place the mics so the piano's in front of me where I need to. Some of the presets may have the mics in a position that's okay. But I'll move them to that, but I'll put them back to the default positions for the final result. I'll add a little bit of mastering compression, just to give it that finished quality. But other than that, I will do absolutely nothing at all to those presets. The reason I'm going to improvise isn't because I'm necessarily showing off my improvisation skills, although I do love to improvise. It's because through improvising on the piano, you kind of play into the instrument. You kind of get to know it more intimately. You find out what its strengths are and what it can do, what sonorities it can make. And I kind of think this is what we should be doing with when piano software is of the quality of Pianoteq, you know, it really is good. So it's up to us as musicians to see what we can get out of those pianos. I would say I have the same attitude with acoustic pianos. If they're well made and in very good working order, then there'll always be qualities that they have. You might need to get to know the piano a little bit before you can kind of, you know, extract those sounds from the instrument. But it's good to think in terms of what can this piano do. So as I improvise, I will be exploring the sonority of the instrument. These instruments may not be all that familiar to me in these particular presets, but I'll explore as I'm improvising, and hopefully I'll be able to make some very convincing, very interesting and beautiful sounds. Okay, so I was obviously just improvising a little bit. I didn't practice on these pianos, didn't really get to know all of what they could do. But nevertheless, I hope you got some sense of how playing in different styles and in different ways, you can always get some interesting and meaningful and beautiful sonorities out of the instruments, and that it's not always about making the piano itself just sound good in some abstract way. It's about you sort of communing with the piano, connecting with it to create sonorities that you intend. Thanks for watching.